Hello and welcome to the Mindset RX series of the Alpha Movement podcast. My name is Tom Foxley and I help functional athletes gain the champ's mindset. Before we get into today's show, I want to just shoot you a quick reminder about the Mindset RX coaching certification. It's a 15-week process that is going to revolutionize the way you approach mindset, and it's also its purpose is twofold. Sorry, if you are an existing coach, this is going to fit so well into what you do already. I wish I had this when I first started coaching. It's going to show you how to actually approach mindset, signing into Sean Connery, mindset with athletes. So that's going to be huge for you. And the other side of it is, if you want to become a mindset coach, it's such a powerful thing, as I'll talk about in a second, and it's an incredible career, as I will talk about as I just mentioned. But it's the only way you're going to be able to work for me and work under Mindset RX, the brand and the business as it's growing into. So if you want to work for Mindset RX, you're going to have to come through the coaching certification, as I need a way to train you up. So if you need more information about that, you can shoot me an email on tom@mindsetrx, so mindsetrxd.com, or you can check out, I think it's episode number 57, season 2, episode 57 of the Mindset RX series of the Alpha Movement podcast. And on that, you'll be able to find out a whole bunch more detail. But anyway, let's get into today's show, and it's very much linked. My basic point is this: if you're a coach, you're doing fucking amazing work already. It's so incredible, and you should never downplay what you do. I hear people saying, I'm just a coach, I'm just a CrossFit coach, I'm just a personal trainer, and you should never not appreciate the amount of change you can have in athletes' lives. It's so inspiring to see, and I'm sure you guys hopefully reflect upon this, but I'm encouraging you to reflect upon it a bit more. Look at the change you're making in people's lives. Ask them about how their relationships have changed as a result of it. Ask them how their self-worth has changed as a result of working with you. And it's come to light basically because I just finished up my final call with the first Inner Athlete Performance Camp of 2018, and also I had the first Q&A of the second installment of the Inner Athlete Performance Camp just now as well. So I did one then the other, and they on the final call, I just looked at the people in front of me, and I was just like, shit, these people have had a huge change in their lives, and the people that sat before me 12 weeks ago are not the same people that sat on that conference call just now. And to look back on where I came from, and to grow in this way, let's just just take a back step, just entertain me for just a minute whilst I go through this. When I was going through training with the Royal Marines, I was not the type of person who would ever envisage myself doing this. In fact, I probably would have referred to this, and I think I've used the phrase before, hence why it's so deeply ingrained in my subconscious about how I was. I would have used the phrase, this is hippie bullshit. And I never would have appreciated the amount of change that I could have in people's lives. And quite frankly, I felt that I wasn't good enough to encourage that kind of change in people's lives. For one point, I couldn't help myself, let alone help others grow. I managed to get through Royal Marines training, but man, that was mostly grit, and that was so much hard work in terms of fighting my own mental inadequacies compared to now, where this feels like this is what I'm born to do. And being able to see this change in people is one of the most beautiful things that you can ever imagine. And now every day when I log in to Facebook to check on all my athletes in their groups, it's just the most insane growth. Or when I get messages from people who have watched this or listened to this podcast, and they tell me how much it's helped them. It's again insane to see how much people grow because of this. And the point of me saying this is, obviously, as I mentioned already, if you're an existing coach, this is such a an amazing thing to do, so please keep it up. And also, if you have even an inkling that you may be able to help people, get out there and do it. It's not only the right thing to do, and let's not downplay that, because it is the right thing to do, but it's such a nice way to live your life. It's an amazing way to live your life, and the most fulfilling job that you could probably ever imagine. And to highlight this, to take this forwards, what I'd like to do is highlight 3 athletes who have been through the Inner Athlete Performance Camp in the last year since these have begun. 2 of them are on the same one, and this isn't to say that other people's achievements in the Inner Athlete Performance Camp have not been as good or as worthy as these people. They're just pretty much a random selection of the people who have been through, but they've got points that apply to you guys, and you'll be able to listen to this and you'll hear what change this has in people's lives. So it's incredible. And I'm not just saying this to be braggadocious. I'm not just saying this to massage my own ego, even though I'm sure it'll be a byproduct. I'm saying it because you guys make a huge change in people's lives, and these athletes need a shout out. So, number 1, the first of these kind of mini case studies is TK. Now, actually, TK did a mini podcast with me before. We just kind of sat outside in his garden. I seem to remember it began raining, and he just discussed where he was and where he'd been through. But to kind of recap that, and you can find that on one episode somewhere in the back catalogue. So I'm afraid I don't remember episode numbers. But when he came to the Inner Athlete Performance Camp, he had just gone through a divorce. He was still, though, wanting to perform at a very high level. In his words, he had kind of a fling with depression, just as a result of that divorce, and like he's got 2 kids to look after. But when it came to performance, his performance was littered with disappointment and comparison, quite frankly. He was residing in what I refer to as a checked mindset model, as in, I can't get out of these. I know it's logically possible for me to get out, and I absolutely believe that other people, if they're in my situation, could do exactly the same. But his point of view was that it's impossible for me right now. I can't do this. And as someone who's been in that checked mindset model, or who spent a lot of time in that checked mindset model, I know how shit it is, and it's a really horrible place. And he had a full-time teaching job, and he's coaching, and he's looking after 2 kids, and kind of like all the other shit that you got going on in your life. And to look now at where he's got to is unreal. Like, he's podiuming, is that a word? Podiuming? He's on the podium at national competitions now, whereas before he was always kind of a step away, as he referred to it as the big dogs. He's done so well, and seeing him at this next stage, it's wonderful to see. There's a couple of quotes from like messages he sent me recently. One of them, he said he's in control of his emotions, and that in itself is huge. It's unreal to see just how much change we can have in people's lives. And if you're a coach and you're kind of seeing this change, or you may be experiencing this change, acknowledge yourself for doing it. It's amazing work to see. And the second one that he said is actually a quote from one of his coaches that he sent me. And he said, "TK, your mind is nails." And knowing that his mind is nails, like, it's so cool to see that he's made such progress. And the kind of the how of how we achieve that is we stopped thinking about what he wanted to achieve, i.e. CrossFit competitions, and started thinking about who he wanted to become, i.e. a better dad, an amazing example of a father. That's a real example of performance, and that's a real example of mindset in action there. The next example, and the hats off TK, by the way, the next example is Gemma, and I'm just going to have a sip of a nice cold beverage. Because, as you know, it is if you're in the UK at the moment, it's hot. We're having our 2 days of summer that are going to 2 days out of 365. It's not bad. It's better than last year. Anyway, Gemma came to me as a mum of 2, a parent of 2. She was doing all of the things, and she was a very good athlete. She kind of had a gift for athleticism. She was an athletic person. So when she turned to CrossFit, she did well straight away. It took hard work, obviously, but she required a bit more work. She required a bit more work. She took to it naturally, is what I meant to say there. But she was doing all of the things. She was training 5-6 times a week, plus personal training. And she had a lot on her plate. And a full-time job as well, of course. But she came to me, and the main reason that she began working with Mindset RX and the Inner Athlete Performance Camp is due to, she had two things really. One, nerves around competition. She saw she became nervous and her performance plummeted. Second, her default setting was to compare herself to others in the box competing and others in competition also competing. And we know as well, just like with the nerves, your performance just goes through the floor when you start doing this, especially if you're doing it in a non-grateful way, because you can actually flip this with a few techniques. And I'm not going to get into that now, but it's possible to flip that and turn that comparison into an advantage. And I'm sure you might have done it a few times. But anyway, her performance wasn't where she wanted it to be. And also her skill work. She was struggling with skill work, bless her. It's frustrating. So she was kind of frustrated with the lack of progress. She was encountering nerves and comparing herself to others. And again, to look at her now, after 12 weeks of the Inner Athlete Performance Camp, and then just continuing the work, because that's the main thing. She continued the work afterwards. She worked on comparison, and then she began feeling grateful for it. And she sent me a few messages recently from a recent competition. First of all, she said, I stayed in my own lane. And staying in your own lane is such a benefit. And I'm sure you guys have heard all about it, but that satisfaction of I was in my own lane the whole time is unreal. And then the kind of the longer quote that I'm going to read to you today is, my vision all week has focused on unbroken toaster bar. I visualized all week, and today I hit 7 in a row. I could have cried. That in itself is such a big achievement for Gemma that you guys won't quite appreciate the emotion behind that and the change. But if you're a coach and you're helping athletes do that, take a second to appreciate things like that, because they are they're the things that make people's lives, and they're the things that change people's lives. So if you're making change in people's lives, appreciate that. Count your own wins as well as your athletes' wins. Gem's going to actually maybe be competing with TK soon, which is really cool that just the two people that I picked, they may be competing in a mixed competition soon. But she's just been steady progress since then. Like every time I get in contact with her, it's like, yeah, things are improving, things are going forwards, and that's the good shit. And then finally, I'd like to touch on Jasper. And Jasper is a regionals level athlete. She competed at regionals last year. But she was very let's say skeptical about joining up to the Inner Athlete Performance Camp. She was a bit kind of uneasy and unsure about what was going on. She had a bunch of stuff going on in private life too. She was she's an osteopath along with her wife, and she's got all this other stuff going on, and she's got a lot to work on. And she's also thinking about coming to the UK when she went through the Inner Athlete Performance Camp. But quite a long way through, or one of the things that she came through actually, is one of the things that she was aware of, and she didn't really bring it up because I think that we can sometimes have shame around these beliefs. I'm not saying that she felt shameful, but it's definitely it was hidden maybe subconsciously from her. But she had about 5 pounds of a bit of excess weight to shift, and it's not that she needed to, but it would have made performance a bit easier had she got there. So we stumbled across this fact that she needed to maybe drop this a bit, and we began to investigate working on her beliefs around nutrition. And through this, she began to see where she was self-sabotaging and why she was self-sabotaging. And I'm not going to obviously go into the detail on this, but it's such a influential thing and such a subliminal thing that it goes unknown. But by being a coach, you can see sometimes that perspective, and it really helps. And that's another key thing as well. If you're coaching, go for that perspective. See, you get a chance to see things with perspective, so use that to your advantage, because it's perspective that change people. Like, the change doesn't really come in like the minutiae of what you're doing. The change comes in shifting someone's perspective from someone who doesn't feel like they can achieve to someone who does feel like they can achieve. And this is what we want to be doing. And now she's hitting her nutrition goals with ease. There's no stress around it. There's no, oh fuck, I have to eat like this and I don't want to eat like this. So it's now easy for her to achieve her goals and make progress. And like, those are the three athletes that I wanted to kind of give a shout out to today. So firstly, TK, next Gemma, and then finally Jasper. Like, you guys and everyone who's been through and graduated from the Inner Athlete Performance Camp, you guys have been fantastic. There's not one of you that I wouldn't have back in there. So excellent work, all of you that have been through this process. And again, if you're a coach, give yourself some credit. You do amazing work, and I think that this is a really nice way to kind of sit back, especially if you're enjoying the sun like I am, to sit back in the sun and to say, fuck, I'm doing good work. I'm moving forwards. So if that's you, well done. And with that, guys, I'm just going to drop a little reminder. If you want to become a Mindset RX coach, join up or apply by emailing me, tom@mindsetrx.com, and we can open up a conversation about that. We can open up a dialogue, and if you've got any questions, you can look at season 2, episode 58 to see if they've been answered there, or if you just need more information about the Inner Athlete Performance Camp, the Mindset RX coaching certification, just head to either YouTube or iTunes. That's the main place people listen to the show, mostly iTunes, actually almost exclusively iTunes, and look for the Alpha Movement Podcast season 2 episode 57. I think that's the right one. And if you guys are going to be off for the weekend, enjoy a fantastic weekend. I'm going to be out in the sun, hopefully watching a sunny London Marathon, and I'll speak to you all soon.